When we return for our final segment, we'll be joined by Florida Congressman David Jolly in the News Radio 970 WFLA studios to discuss his concerns about the crisis facing our veterans and the problems in their medical care.
And finally, we'll hear from Dr. Bonati about how he feels our government needs to react to the inadequate care facing veterans and what we all can do to help.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
Welcome back to our final segment of American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Bermel.
Thank you for joining us for American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bermel, joined by Ethan Euchre. And yes, I said Ethan Euchre.
Yes.
We brought him back from the blaze.
I am back from the dead. Yes.
And we are so proud to have you here.
Did my time in Manhattan, decided it wasn't for me. And thank God for you, Kimberly, and Dr. Bonati for bringing me back. So here we are.
Absolutely. And we have Jeff Wagstaff here, our senior fellow.
He is. You're still a senior fellow, I see.
I have remained a senior fellow here at the Bonati Spine Institute.
Very nice. Very nice.
And we have world-renowned orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Bonati. And in studio, we have guest Congressman David Jolly. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate it.
We are excited to speak to you not only about the debacle with the VA, but also about your thoughts on Obamacare.
Sure. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, I mean, the first thing, kind of why I reached out to your folks, Congressman Jolly, is Kimberly wanted to get somebody to talk about the VA scandal, and I see you all over the news up in Washington talking to some of the whistleblowers and this and that. So just if you could give us a little bit of background on how you got involved, and for people that don't even know what the VA scandal is all about, if you could kind of summarize that as well, that'd be great.
Sure, of course, you bet. So when a new member of Congress is elected, they're assigned certain committees of jurisdiction. I asked to go on the Veterans Affairs Committee. This was about 3 to 4 weeks before this crisis broke.
Oh, wow.
So it was very interesting timing to go onto the committee. We know that the density of veterans in the Tampa Bay area and Pinellas County, where I represent. We know the good work at Haley and at Bay Pines. But the fact is, VA is going through a crisis right now. And in the words of one of their senior leaders, it's a crisis of integrity. And we can't lose sight of the fact that veterans have died as a result of negligence of the VA. And that's not to be political. Those are the facts. Veterans have died. It's a historic crisis. We should recognize it as a historic crisis, and I think it needs historic solutions. My concern is the political establishment is always too late to identify a crisis and too quick to consider it resolved. We are nowhere near having this resolved. So what are a couple things that have happened already? The immediate need is to clear the waiting list. The tens of thousands, maybe 90,000 people on the waiting list. Wow. The administration is working through that proactively. Congress is trying to give them additional authority to move through that waiting list even more quickly. And then how do we pay for it? There's a bill pending in Congress that hopefully will be resolved very soon that freezes senior level bonuses for the next 2 years. And that in itself frees up $800 million that can go towards health care.
The $800 million that were just being given out in bonuses.
That's right. Here's an interesting thing about one of our hearings. You'll like this. So,
how do you get that gig? That's what I want.
Well, it gets even better. Okay, so bonuses are based on evaluations at the end of the year. Of all the senior officials that were reviewed, not a single senior VA official received an evaluation of less than above average. Now, explain how that works on a bell curve. If everybody's above average,
right,
then who are you being compared to? There's no average, right? So $800 million will be saved when this law is enacted.
When we know the entire system is operating well below average in competency and efficiencies.
That's exactly right. Listen, we could talk about several reforms. I have a few ideas. I will tell you this. a number of veterans, the vast majority of veterans that I speak to, and we recently had a day where we invited every veteran that wanted to come speak to us, come into the office. We had about 300 people show up. The vast majority want to stay within the VA healthcare system. They like it. They like their doctors, they like their nurses, they like their staff. There obviously are those who want to go outside of the system and have complaints. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the notion of just voucher everybody out and shut down the VA, because the veterans like it there. Here's something I think we can do, though, to inject the competition that will ultimately lead to improvements in VA healthcare. Give every veteran a choice card, like a TRICARE card, like a Medicare card. Let them choose where they want to go. If they want to go to the VA, go to the VA. If they want to go to another provider, go to another provider. And what we will be able to quickly identify is what is the attrition rate of patients at different VA facilities, because it'll be different in Tampa and St. Pete than it is in Arizona or Boston or LA. But we'll be able to identify, based on competitive pressures, which hospitals are performing well.
Congressman Jolly, you've had a chance to really drill down on this. What is the state of those VA facilities here that our Tampa Bay area veterans, when they go to the VA, what kind of service are they receiving? I think we can all agree that they deserve the very best of health care. But what are they actually receiving? All we hear are the negatives on the news. But what is your personal assessment of these local facilities?
We hear great compliments about the doctors and nurses and staff, about the quality of care. We really do. We hear great compliments about the quality of care. The frustration is, first, in getting in. It can be months to get your first appointment. So the delay in getting in. Secondly, if a veteran patient, asks for a different physician or asks to go outside of the system, they rate that experience very poor. One of the things we did when we had the 300 people in our office is we did a survey. Now, this is a self-selected group, but roughly 70% rated their care as excellent. If you go average to excellent, it got up to about 90%. But for those who said they asked to go outside of the VA healthcare system, the process within the VA to get referred out was rated as very poor by about 50% of the patients. So quality of care is great if you can get in and get it. Referrals are not operating as efficiently or as patient-centered as they should. And then lastly, in specialties and subspecialties is where we hear a number of complaints. One of the greatest concerns we hear is the length of time for a specialty consultation. So, for instance, a colonoscopy or some type of gastroenterology. And the wait list then, that ultimately when the patient is seen 5 months later, 8 months later, 11 months later, we've heard a number of cases where they're then diagnosed with stage 3 or stage 4 cancer, when they should have been in to see that physician 11 months earlier, 5 months earlier, whatever the time wait is.
Well, we got about 2 minutes left. I know, Kimberly, you wanted to get Congressman Jolly's thoughts on the Affordable Health Care Act. Don't really have a specific question for you other than, one thing that keeps coming up every time we discuss it is sort of the constitutionality of it.
Sure.
You're an attorney. I mean, is the Affordable Health Care Act constitutional?
I think the individual mandate is unconstitutional, personally. The Supreme Court has ruled under the taxing authority of the Congress it can be declared constitutional. That, to me, suggests it's the largest tax increase in American history then. Listen, I would have voted against it. I would vote for repeal of it. But we have to have answers as well on my side of the aisle. I like to talk about a term health insurance plan that provides price certainty, can't be canceled based on intervening health events. That, or a term health insurance plan, that's accomplished through less regulation, less government. Decouple it from the employer. Listen, we wouldn't have the Hobby Lobby case right now if people actually had control over their health care and didn't have to rely on an employer-subsidized health plan. That is one more example of what happens when we have regulations and too much government controlling our health care.
How affordable do you think the Affordable Health Care Act has been?
Well, if you ask people in Pinellas County, not very. And you ask those who have lost their plans, not great. There was a story this weekend, actually, somebody who was excited to get an affordable plan, and it turns out they can't actually get a doctor now because the Humana plan that they chose, their doctors aren't available. So listen, Obamacare has been a disaster. It is the president's signature signature legislative achievement. And yet on his own, he's unilaterally delaying and postponing provisions of his own signature law.
Correct.
And that reflects the fact that he knows it's a disaster.
And how come so many companies are becoming exempt from it?
Well, that's a result of his 1 year delay. So, Congress continues to push through changes to Obamacare, and he won't even listen. But yet, on a Friday night, late at night, he'll issue an executive order to actually delay or change his own law because he knows what Congress has been saying, and frankly, what the American people have been saying is right all along. Mm-hmm. We could have accomplished specific solutions to our healthcare issues, healthcare coverage issues, without bringing the government in to 1/6 or 1/7 of our economy. The patients have lost choice. They've lost control of their own healthcare. It's driving up costs. And where we're really hearing concerns is from businesses who have rushed to renew plans ahead of the Obamacare requirements, or who are having to absorb additional costs, or frankly, lay people off or reduce their hours to comply with Obamacare.
I think because nobody really read it and knew what was in it.
That's right.
That was the biggest problem.
Yep.
That's right.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time, Congressman David Jolly. Headed back to D.C., I'm assuming?
Tomorrow morning, we'll be in for 2 more weeks, and then we'll be working here in the district over the month of August.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure. Appreciate you stopping by the studio here and joining us on American Medicine Today. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Bonati, I know you're all wound up about the VA and, of course, Obamacare, so why don't you take it from there?
Well, we keep talking about the Obamacare, we keep talking about the VA scandal. Problem is, both are practically entangled with the politicians. Mm-hmm. So the results are going to be nil and probably will never solve this trouble. Let me tell you this. Just to correct a little bit, to put a patch on the VA problem, we need around $17.6 billion. That is going to bring 1,500 more physicians and 8,500 more nurses. Mm-hmm. But guess what? They're going to be under the rules of the contract of the government. So you're going to hire people that they are going to be, again, in a irresponsible behavior. Mm-hmm. You cannot hire people that you cannot fire. Correct. If the results are not good. Now, if you look a little bit more, the amount of responsibility that the VA has is unparalleled in business. Mm-hmm. One of the problems that we see is this scandal that you have on the manipulation of the waiting list will never happen if the physicians will be managing this, or a reputable structure of business will be managing this. Mm-hmm. The next thing that happens is you see they are an overpay of all the individuals that work in the VA. But guess what? Mm-hmm. They are not physicians overpay. They are clerks, they are managers, mm-hmm. and the last year they have $800 million on bonuses. Mm-hmm. So imagine the amount of help that the vets can have with that amount being spent in irresponsible, totally incompetent, mm-hmm. mismanagement, and individuals that they don't have the heart to help our veterans.
Thank you for watching American Medicine Today. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to contact us at the number below, or tweet at Dr. Bonati or hashtag American Medicine Today. We respect your views and opinions and would like to hear from you.
Thank you for watching American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute. Please look in your local listings for our next regularly scheduled program. To hear more from Dr. Alfred Bonati and American Medicine Today, tune into News Radio 970 WFLA.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
The proceeding program is a paid presentation for American Medicine Today and the Bonati Spine Institute. The information and opinions expressed are solely those of American Medicine Today and are not the opinions of the station, its affiliates, management, or employees.